parts of the music staff. Okay, so first of all, it's a 5-line staff. There are 5 lines, again I use my hand, 5 lines, which means there are 4 spaces. Now, I can go above and I can go below the 5-line staff, but I have to add extra little lines. So I have my 5-line staff. The extra little lines are called what? They're called ledger lines, L-E-D-G-E-R, ledger lines. And I can have, well, I can have a ton of them. I've had music where, especially going up, I've had like 6 or 7, which is ridiculous, to try to figure out where you are on the piano, and you have to count, and all the lines and the spaces, and whatever. I've also had a ton on the bottom. You can have some on the top of this system or the bottom of this system. So yeah, you can have ledger lines that take notes above and below the 5-line staff. These things right here that are going to separate my 5-line staff, they are called bar lines. And they're going to take my big, long 5-line staff, and they're going to break it into smaller sections called measures. If you can imagine music that was just written without any bar lines, it's way too much for your brain to understand and to really process. So musicians started getting smart, and they started putting these bar lines so that our brains and our eyeballs could see just small sections of music. And then we can process it better, and we can follow better, and even some of us still have problems following it. From here, again, musicians are kind of smart like this. We decided, who knows when, and sometimes you find music that isn't like this, but we like to number our measures. So that way when Miss Davis says, all right, jump to measure 4, you know exactly where you're going to. You go over to measure 4 and you're there. If it's multiple pages and she says go to page 5, second system, remember we have this is one system, and if I had drawn this earlier, here's my second system, because all of this is combined, all of it's joined together, and you see the big swooshy bracket. So that's telling me this whole thing is a system. And then I would jump to the second system and then measure 32, whatever. All right, from here, let's keep going. On our systems, the top system typically has treble clef, and this isn't always the case. If it were, say, a men's choir, it might have 2 bass clefs. But in an SATB choir, you'd have treble clef typically on the top system, or the top staff, and then bass clef on the bottom staff. So my treble singers are my higher voiced singers. Over here, I can draw another treble clef, and if I add the 8 onto the bottom, we read it the same as treble, but the 8 tells us we're going to drop everything an octave, and this clef would be known as tenor clef. So here, my treble, T-R-E-B-L-E, C-L-E, F. Only one F, by the way. I'm obnoxious about your E's for a reason. In treble clef, the bottom line is E. So if you spell it right, T-R-E-B-L-E-C-L-E-F, bottom line is E. The next space above that, so bottom line, if I step up to the next space, it's F. And then G, and now I restart my alphabet, A, B, C, D, E. Top line is F. Space above that, G. If I added more ledger lines, I would just keep going up. I can step below the bottom line and call it a D. If I added a ledger line here, it would be a C. And again, I can keep going lower. For my bass clef, this is typically my guys that sing in bass clef, so I try to help you remember. I call you goofy guys because, well, y'all are. So goofy guys are the ones that sing in bass clef, and the double G, goofy guys, helps me remember bottom line is G. So if you can remember goofy guys, bass clef, by the way, B-A-S-S. It looks like the word bass, but it said bass. Bottom line is G. Now I restart my alphabet for the next space. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. Ledger line would be C. By the way, this ledger line below treble clef, this ledger line above bass clef, they're the same note. Just saying. And that's middle C, right in the middle of the piano. Got it? Any questions? Tenor clef, same thing. Bottom line would be E. But if I'm in treble clef, that's the E that you would sing that note. If I'm in tenor clef, I would take that E and drop it down to here. By the way, that E and that E would be the same, just for those of you who care.